Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tropical update number 40 on Category 1 Hurricane Henri. Henri prompting hurricane warnings, storm surge warnings, and tropical storm warnings for the New England coast from New Jersey all the way to Cape Cod. Let's get right into it. Henri's not looking like the most fantastic storm on satellite image. The satellite jumps position on this view. That's why we have it jump position when you look at the storm on here. But what we do see, though, is convections clearly to the south side. The north side of the storm is relatively open, lacking a lot of convection. But you can tell where the eye is supposed to be. It's that little notch, of course, surrounded by those deeper reds, those deep red colors edging on black colors there for the storm. And that's what we're looking at the moment for Henri. Henri's deepest convection will shift to the south and west side, which is completely opposite of what we're used to when we talk about lots of tropical cyclones. Normally we talk about the north and east side of the storm being the strongest. It's the opposite. Henri's decaying, and so that's just kind of how it is. It's in an unusual location, and so that's kind of where we're at with Henri. Nonetheless, rainfall going to be a big concern, with the heaviest amount falling to the west of the center, particularly over Long Island, nearing into New York and much of Connecticut as well. Those hurricane warnings, as well as the tropical storm warnings, remain as the same as they were last night. Again, much of Long Island, about 2/3 of it, and then much of all of Connecticut, or at least much of Connecticut and Massachusetts, and then the remainder of Connecticut, parts of New York, the other third of Long Island, New York City, and about the northern half of New Jersey under a tropical storm warning at the moment. The next full advisory will be at 11 tonight. Next partial advisory at 2 tomorrow morning. Speaking of 2 tomorrow morning, the storm's still going to be about 6 hours away at 2 Eastern tomorrow morning. We do see by about 8 a.m., though, those tropical storm force winds can begin to arrive anywhere as far south as Maryland, all the way up to Cape Cod. Again, the wind field with this storm isn't like Sandy. I'm going to keep on stressing it. This is no Sandy, but it's still a decent storm. And this area of the U.S. doesn't get storms like this all that often. So that's kind of what we're watching at the moment in terms of arrival times. Again, inland parts of Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, and New York City can expect tropical storm force winds as early as Sunday afternoon. And then by Sunday night is probably your last chance to get tropical storm force winds if you're going to get them, because Henri is going to be decaying rather quickly at that point in time. We do see rainfall is going to be a concern. Like I mentioned, basically Philadelphia to Albany to Hartford, Connecticut, if we were to make like a triangle there and then draw lines to the coast respectively, I think that's where the heaviest rainfall is going to fall. Certainly Long Island is going to get the biggest portion of these heavy rains, 3 to 6 inches, isolated 10 for much of that area. Again, you can tell exactly what you might get according to that forecast down below from the Weather Prediction Center. Storm surge is also a concern with Henri. Again, the storm surge forecast the same as it was this morning, 3 to 5 feet everywhere from Mastic Beach on Long Island, the rest of the coast of Long Island on the north side, Long Island Sound, all of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, all of Massachusetts until you get to Chatham, Massachusetts. That includes Nantucket, Nantucket Sound, Martha's Vineyard, Vineyard Sound, Block Island, Buzzards Bay, all of the areas in between. 3 to 5 feet of storm surge possible there. 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, and that storm surge watch in effect for the southern coast of Long Island from East Rockaway Inlet to Mastic Beach. And then again from Chatham, Massachusetts over to Sagamore Beach, including Cape Cod Bay. 1 to 3 feet also possible north of Sagamore Beach all the way to the Merrimack River. And then down from East Rockaway Inlet down to Cape May, New Jersey, including New York City, along that line of coastline. That's why I was confused. I had to say line twice in that sentence. As we see in the center of the screen, we can see our current tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings, those for wind, and then of course the rest of the screen depicting storm surge threat. Here's the latest H-WRF taking the storm just wide of Long Island and into Rhode Island. The models have come into much better agreement since earlier today, which is part of the reason for this update. As we can see, the chances of a Long Island landfall are relatively decreasing since earlier today. And the chances of a Rhode Island landfall are increasing. What I would say most likely at this point scrapes Long Island, then moves in near the Connecticut-Rhode Island border. Again, that heaviest rain, though, going to be falling over Long Island in New York City and much of that area. So certainly still, even though the center of the storm's not going there, it's not something, we need to let go of completely. The spaghetti models shifting much farther to the east today, all the way over to Cape Cod, now back in the center of things in terms of where the center of the storm's going to go. But again, the center of the storm at this point really doesn't matter. We know the general threats for much of this area. Don't be surprised now that we're getting into intensity if those hurricane warnings don't get downgraded to tropical storm warnings. That does not mean that the threat is over. It just means that Henri is no longer a hurricane, strictly speaking, albeit it'll be a 70, 65 mile an hour tropical storm, a very strong tropical storm, a severe one, if you will. And so that's certainly a concern nonetheless. So don't let that downgrade if the National Hurricane Center decides that's what they're going to do. Sometimes they won't get rid of the warning, even if the storm's not going to make it hurricane strength, just for messaging and consistency issues because of the public perception. Oh, the storm's not going to be as bad because the warning's gone. Remember, that's the lesson learned from Sandy, although it's not the same lesson. The hurricane warning along the New Jersey coast. Sandy becomes post-tropical, hurricane warning over, threat over, no, Big Sandy just made landfall, albeit not as a tropical cyclone. And so that's why from here onward, tropical storm watches and warnings remain in effect for post-tropical cyclones because we don't want people to let their guard down. So the same thing if the hurricane warning gets dropped to tropical storm warning because Henri is expected to weaken, don't let your guard down. That's the main takeaway from this today. We'll have another update out tomorrow afternoon, again on Monday afternoon and Tuesday afternoon. We're watching a few more areas in the Atlantic at the moment. National Hurricane Center only watching one of them, the wave off the coast of Africa. 10% chance within the next 5 days. That's lower than it was last time I talked about it. Again, no threat to land with that one. Another tropical wave coming off 4 to 7 days from now. Also no threat to land. But that one in the Gulf of Mexico in about 5 to 8 days from now could have a potential impact to land. But again, it's a little too far out to say if there's even going to be a storm, let alone where exactly we can expect impacts. That's it for now. Chris Sixton of Weather, Catholic Media.